All right. If you are surprised that there is a second episode of Chili Has a Zoom Room, count yourself among many, including myself. I'm probably the most surprised that I'm doing this again with yet another lovely guest. Today I am joined by what we call the penultimate jury member. You didn't quite make it to
The
final tribal,
ultimate
but you
jury
made it.
member, right?
Yeah, the ultimate, right. I guess Penn would be
Ultimate.
the one before you. You're the ultimate
There
jury
it
member.
is. I'm the
Ultimate jury
penultimate
member,
player.
Murmur Twin. Murmur Twin, welcome to Chili Has a Zoom Room.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you. Okay, so we spoke last time with Sal the Bard, who sort of filled us in on his perspective of the game and all
Sure.
things therein. So we're hoping to hear a little bit from you today about a little bit of everything, from how
Yeah,
script came
yeah, I'm
from,
all about it.
philosophy, all that. Okay, so let me start. Why don't we start somewhere towards the end? Change things up a little bit, because I think one of the most interesting things about your game, or one of the most unique things, is you were the only one to cast your final vote on one player. And I feel like that was done for a big reason. So can you fill us in, because we all kind of know the narrative of the game a little bit, but fill us in a little bit about why that vote landed on Stake.
All right, that's a good start at the end. So I like, I'm an emotional player, and I always kind of had this story going in my mind that I really liked, where after the first Merc Tribal Council, I really lied to Stake for no reason. I told them, like, you, me, final two, and then I left him out of the vote because I wanted to be loyal to you and Deadbeat Dad, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought that, start out on a good note, but whoops. Um, but when he found out that I lied to him, he was pretty pissed at me, and then I kind of smoothed it over, and I did really want to make it up to him. But then I got traded off to Scum, which is where I consider that punishment for lying to Stake. Like, it was just a good narrative of, like, go and think about what you did, because that lie also punished me in Scum really bad. But I'll talk about that
I
later.
wonder.
But
I wonder what Khan and I did to deserve that punishment. I'm
oh
trying to
god.
think. I don't know, but it was a punishment. It definitely felt like one. It was
Yeah,
to be
you
there with
take
you at
that as a
least.
chip job.
Yeah.
But so then when I went back to town, I had this unique opportunity because of what I didn't know about the advantage. I did know about it, but I forgot about it. But what do you call it? Where I could save Stakes game life at no cost to me, and it really did feel like, make up for it. This is great. And when me, Stake, and Sandwolf got together, I really liked their company, so we bonded.
Mhm.
And after that, Stake declared me like his #1 trusted ally. And at that point, I was already kind of with Kat and Sal, and so I
Right.
was like, sure, you never say no to that. But so we're working together. But honestly, like, I kind of wavered back and forth on how I felt about him. And then you get to the final five vote with P-Mush and Stake, and I lied to him. And then the next vote, I lied to him again, and I get backstabbed and voted out of the game. And so, like, I thought about that, and it's like, I put a lot of faith in Kat, and what happened. But Stig really, to my knowledge, didn't do any harm to me, and we really bonded together well. And I kind of like the idea that he was doing to me what I had been trying to do to Kat, where, like, he just said, "I'm gonna do what you want. I trust you 100%. I'll vote with you." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I want to keep you." And then it's like, "Fuck, that's what I had been doing." And
Ah,
so
okay.
all of it, like, I was like, "Yeah, I really like Stig's game." And he
All
didn't
right.
do anything wrong to me, and this is a chance to once again make up for the wrong I did. And so, like, yeah, it felt good to place it because, like I with Kat, I've been thinking about this a lot with Kat. I kind of feel like I said it in my speech, but if I consider you a final two ally and you vote me out before the finals, that's kind of a policy vote. Like, sorry,
Sure.
you really should have tried to go up against me. Sorry, not sorry. Like I
Yeah.
said, you made me lose, so eye for an eye, nothing personal.
I've often wondered about that, about how I haven't seen this, and maybe I just haven't watched enough or seen enough Survivor, but what if you structured an alliance where there's a mutual agreement that we're allies, but if I'm on the jury, you don't get my vote. And that way you
Yeah.
don't have an incentive to put them there.
I've been thinking about that a lot, and it's like the problem. I honestly would have said it, but then it makes it sound like I don't trust you, and I really
Sure.
did. Like, I just try and foster the whole 100% trust vibe. Thankfully, it already happened to me once, in Awful Big Brother, where I put on, and like that blindsided me so bad that it was like, oh shit. And
Yeah.
so this time I was always aware it could happen to me. It could happen to me. It's not the end of the world. Like, and then honestly, Final Four was the one time I was not thinking about it. And there you go.
Isn't that how it goes, though? Isn't that
Yeah.
always how it goes? Okay, so I think we can sort of frame this a couple ways. I think I'm hearing the emotional player, but I also kind of see you as somewhat driven by the narrative of like how you played and how you picked almost what feels like the best ending for your game, right? Where
Yeah.
it starts with kind of a betrayal and it ends with almost a redo on that betrayal. And thinking too just about like the relationship you and I had in the game. How I didn't. It started how long ago? 8 years ago, our relationship
Yeah.
began,
Oh
or
God, it was
um,
2016. I remember because I remember where I was living when it
2016.
happened. So it was
Gotcha.
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So to
And it
fill
was
in, well,
just
to
like,
fill in to fill in the viewers, you want to recap them real quick on how that all started because it's actually kind of interesting.
man, so all right, in 2016, I spent a year trying to support myself writing for causes that I find important. I'm transgender and a recreational drug user, so those two particular experiences are stuff I like to talk about. And so Chili had run a Mafia game based on the Hunger Games, where he had a system where audience members could donate to their favorite charity, send in a receipt, and then give credits to their favorite players in the game. And I thought that was fucking really cool. And so my boyfriend was making hats at the time, and so we decided to do a raffle using Chili's system of send us a receipt for a charity you like, and you'll win raffle tickets, and we'll raffle off the hat. Unfortunately, I found out you can't make any money supporting yourself for a living writing. Oops, but it was educational. But
Charity also doesn't generally help the
yeah,
right.
but fuck it, Chili like reached out. He had donated to Trans Lifeline, which is a charity that obviously I care a lot about. They help trans people that are feeling depressed or suicidal get resources they need to help themselves. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So a part of I think what I told you before is that I realized with Sal that I plugged the things that we cared about towards the end. So this is my sort of
Hey,
roundabout way of getting you to plug the things that you care a lot about
yeah.
because I don't expect
What's funny?
anyone to get to the 2 hour mark. So
So like Chili gave me a list of topics that we'd kind of use for structure, and I'm jumping around and I'm aware of it, and I'm like
oh no, I'm
fucking
jumping
sorry.
around. It's my fault.
All right, no,
I'm
no,
a
no. Like
terrible host. I'm very new at this, so bear with me.
anyone that's read my confessionals is like, yeah, I just say all the shit I'm thinking about all the time. Like talking to my inner monologue is basically my confessional stream nonstop all the time.
Well, I
So
think you and I, my short tenure in the game, I provided a lot of confessionals, and for your long
yeah,
tenure, you provided a lot. Anyone who's tuning in here, if they weren't expecting this, then I don't know what they were expecting. The two of us talk a
yeah,
lot, and we have a lot to say, and it's kind of all over the place. So we're all good. We're
absolutely,
all good.
absolutely. Be
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah,
like I
so
completely.
it was really neat because from my perspective, I come into this game and I don't know anybody really. I know Deadbeat Dad, Merc, a couple of Mafia people. It had been so long and so much has happened in my life that I just forgot everyone else. So it was really cool when you reached out to me about that, and I was like,
I
oh,
wasn't sure if you'd remember.
well,
Yeah,
when you prodded me on it, I was like, oh, of course, I remember the whole chat about the Hunger Games Mafia. I'm like, this is amazing. I have a connection. Who else could possibly have this connection? And then it occurred to me, oh, probably everybody in this game is connected. Like if
I
especially if you're gonna remember that much, and then I realized like, oh, there's been a lot of these games, and I went into this not having done any pregame anythings or talking with anybody, and like it was like, oh, it was a nice little thing when you reached out, and it clued me into the fact that probably everyone here knows each other.
well, all right. So I will say that I feel like my reputation for that got overblown. So Kat and Sal are people that I would have considered friends going into the game. I had actually met Pimush before. We don't talk much online, but she'd come down to visit one day with a bunch of other goons to the beach town where I live. Steak is somebody. There's a couple of other people from the Mafia Discord who I talked to, but had never ever talked one-on-one with.
Sure.
Deadbeat Dad I had betrayed twice, so that was
Yeah,
kind of like,
he let me know about that right away. If you
oh
read my early
God,
confessionals, I didn't trust
God,
you worth a
oh.
damn.
Deadbeat Dad, if you're watching this, dude, I am so sorry. That was so bad. Oh man.
I think
So
anyone
yeah,
reading your
this game.
confessionals could tell how badly you felt about that
Oh
whole
my
thing.
fucking
So
god!
yeah,
Because
I'm not gonna drag that one out of you too much today. In
no, no, it's
the
what
reason.
happened was I had talked to Deadbeat Dad and Spokes, and I was in denial about the reality of my situation. Where like it was such a good convo, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the finals with you guys, and like, and then Kat and Sal and Steak messaged me like, hey, what's up? I'm gonna vote at Deadbeat Dad, and I'm like, fuck, like, and I realized just it. I again reacted very poorly to getting blindsided and awful Big Brother, and it's like, oh, I do not want to do this to him right at the end. That's gonna be awful. And so it felt like once I came to grips with the fact that I was gonna have to backstab people, it was just like rip
Yeah.
the band-aid off is the term I use.
Which I
But
guess, if anything, that it surprises me that you've obviously played a lot. You've been overall probably one of the more successful people to play this game, and yet the whole notion of like, oh shit, I have to do this to people again. It's like I don't think anyone remembers that when they jump back in, and it's like one of those
yeah,
things that you get distance from the pain of it, and you kind of forget. But then it's
yep.
like, oh hello, old friend, I gotta come and get you.
So that is where I think, well, I would say that my relationships going into the game were overblown as an advantage. I would say that my experience having gone through it was definitely an advantage. Where when I won Pet Island, which was the first Survivor I played in, or the second Survivor I played, the first one I won in 2013, so 7 years ago, I was gloating. Like I was kind of doing what I did this game, where I was trying to be a goat, get dragged to the end, and surprise people at the end. Except I wasn't really trying to be a goat. I kind of was one because I was late to a lot of shit and didn't talk to a lot of people. And then I got out and I was kind of lampooned. Like I was not prepared for what people had to say about me because I hadn't thought at all about like viewers vista or whatever. But
Sure.
I'd say like for games like this, I think I average one every 2 years or so, and have for 8 years.
Okay.
And I write a lot of confessionals, so I like to go back and kind of try and look back at lessons learned, and
For sure.
there's a lot of personal growth that comes over 8 years, and like definitely like to think I've learned from stuff. And so
Oh, definitely.
yeah, one thing, popularity contest, like that, the game that should not be mentioned, like that one, I hurt some feelings in a way that was beyond the game, and that was kind of just like, oh shit, like I don't want to be that. And so what I actually did like about this game, and hated at the same time, was the awareness of the audience. Just because like you can't interact even like I'm doing this now, you tune it out, you don't think about it or whatever. But then if I mentioned you in conversation, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, it's like a ghost. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And you're one of the good ones, like Constant or Merc. I'm just like, oh, God. Like, but
Yeah,
anyway, I think that,
this distance though reduces the
yeah,
pain. I think everyone's
yeah,
kind of all on board with everything that that happened. So
yeah. But one other life lesson that I learned, actually,
please.
I learned this from Pet Island, and I took it into my day-to-day life, and I really, really tried to adhere to this as much as possible. I don't talk shit about people. That is key. Like, instead of talking shit about people I don't like, I take that brain space and I try to talk positively about people I do like, because it takes about the same amount of effort, but it just like it reflects better on you. And so like even in games like this, like con is like it's always a game thing. Like you're trying to end my game life, so I'm trying to end your game life. But like I'm sure he's a cool. I have no personal anything against anyone.
Sure.
And I don't want them to have that against me. And so I'm aware of the fact that like you can hurt someone's feelings, even though it's just a game. I'm aware of the fact that you can hurt people's feelings, and I don't want to do that ever.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, also look, it's kind of the obvious, but it just reflects poorly on you, right? If you talk like the best case scenario is you find someone who's like agreeing with you and happy that you're doing it. Now you're talking to someone who says shit on people, and that's what good is that? So it makes sense.
I try, and I'm not perfect. Like sometimes when you're like frustrated, but like for the record, I really do my best. Just keep it fun. Like that would be my overall like. It's funny, like even I'm always trying to win, but mainly I'm just trying to like. It was never a strategy, but I always just find myself connecting with one tight ally, and then the two of us just run the table or whatever. And it's like that's the funnest way to play. And so like,
no, I couldn't agree with you more. Like I had pretty much the same thing going with Deadbeat Dad from the beginning. Like we disagreed, and I said I told him like, look, like you might betray me. I'm just going to assume you're not, because I'm going to have so much more fun if I actually
Yeah.
have someone who I can be totally open with. So if you
Yeah.
cut me, okay, but then I'll at least have had fun thinking that I had a real
Yeah.
partner, because that's just a
Yeah.
better way to do it.
Yeah. And the more trust you build through tribal councils where you vote the same and like
Mm-hmm.
secrets built or whatever, like it keeps getting better and better. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. For
like
sure.
with Curious Cat, like that was an example where I feel like there might be an impression that because we all lied before in Big Brother 2 that we got the band back together immediately,
Mm-hmm.
but like it wasn't like that at all. It was she definitely had already way too many allies when I went to Scum, and I was just like, I'll do whatever you want. Like I understand I'm a beggar, not a chooser. Like, and so like my philosophy there was, since I didn't have that final two ally, was just like fucking make it so that objectively, why wouldn't she keep me? Like,
Right. Yeah. Makes
yeah,
sense.
that's one thing I do. It's never a strategy, but I found I've done it in pretty much every one of these games I've played. Is if you find yourself outside of a group of numbers, pick half of them and be really fucking close to them, and pick the other half and fucking don't talk to them at all.
Hmm.
And the crack will build itself eventually around you.
Okay.
And it's like I never tried to do that, but like,
It sort of
yeah, like,
incidentally happened, and I suppose there's some
yeah,
good sense to that, because you don't want to just be
yeah.
stuck and wait for those things to open, and
Yeah, you can't just promise everyone the world because they'll talk
right.
to each other and your shit. But if you really do just promise two people the world and nothing, like that makes
Mm-hmm.
itself obvious.
No,
And you're
that is
being
good
honest
advice
too.
for sure.
I really don't like lying. I swear to God, I don't like.
Look,
Oh man.
it's collateral damage of playing a good game, and I think
Yeah.
anyone who plays Survivor, look, if you like lying, that's great, and good for you. You'll go far. But at the same time, there is something about like just a cold, methodical way of playing that probably turns most people off.
Yeah.
I don't think very many of like even like, I'm thinking real Survivor. I don't think very many of those people were the best liars on the season. And the best
Yeah.
liars on the season probably get cut
Yeah.
somewhere, or the goats that get brought to the end,
Yeah.
But
I really
liars,
liked your. Oh, I was gonna say I really liked your interview with Sal, where like there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of merit to just being the person who survives the longest and is like never looked at as a target, as opposed to the person driving all the
mhm,
crossfire. Like,
for
I think
sure.
that was a great argument.
Yeah, I mean, Survivor would be a boring game if the winner were predictable, obvious, and repeatable, right? It's really cool that you get a collection of different people, and those people all come together and decide, and with a different jury in the same exact game played, like different people would decide things. So, it just so happens Sal won this game, and he was a good winner. But both
Yeah.
Cat and Steak could have won with a different selection of people because of what they did. To my taste, Sal was the right person. That's who I wanted, but
Yeah.
there's nothing invalid about your vote, and there could have easily been a bunch of other Murmur twins on that jury who saw it the same way. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a cool game
Yeah.
for that
Like,
reason.
I really like the idea. Like, part of me was like, oh, should I vote for the best, like, whatever? And I was like, no, it's subjective. Like, I can vote for whoever the
Hmm.
fuck I want. And, like, I want to vote
Yeah.
for Steve.
Hell
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So no complaints there. So let's get a little into sort of like just the story, and we'll go. We'll highlight most of the interesting stuff, but to quickly graze past like kind of the intro, like just the landing on the beach moment. Clearly, you had, not necessarily a whole pre-game alliance developed or anything, but you had some relationships, namely with two people who weren't on your side of things. So
Mhm.
when you land on the beach and there's a bunch of us, I guess it
Mhm.
does kind of speak that I'm one of the people that you ended up forming an alliance with, and we weren't terribly connected. But so
Yeah. Yeah.
when you first landed there and you started, were you at all nervous about your placement, knowing that you've got some wins on your back, knowing that like
Oh,
your people are over
yeah.
there? Like,
So
what's going
it's
on
fu-
there?
I went in literally. This is so funny. Like, I didn't sign up for the game in the thread.
Hmm.
I was drinking one day, and some people in the Pod and Max, they goaded me into doing it, and so I signed up for it and forgot about it. And then like JC messages me like, "Hey, join the Discord," and then like I get a message from Deadbeat Dad asking me if I want to align, and I wasn't even aware the game had started. And even saying that, I'm like, "Who's in our tribe?" Like, because I hadn't read the thread yet, and like I agreed to it. And then I'm like, he showed the list of people. I'm like, okay, like there's no one that I'm friends with in the tribe, like going in, like
Sure.
DBD is the closest person in terms of who I talked to. I had a good interaction with you, but it was years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else? Oh, Steak, I knew through away, and like Merc, acquaintance for a long time, but at the same time, like he's Merc. Like
hmm
I wanted to work with, I really did, just because like, boy, would he be a shield to take eyes off of me. But
Yeah,
like,
I didn't realize his threat level coming into the game or how he was perceived. I have no idea. Like, I love Merc. We played tons of Mafia back in the day,
yeah,
but I hadn't been around for a very long time, and I was fully intending on being his number one until he kind of blew up
yeah,
everything a little and
yeah.
kind of, and
I
maybe
really was
stepped in
gonna
it a bit.
try and help him, but like,
Yeah.
fuck, like, oof. Yeah. Sorry, Merc. I'm sure he's
I,
fine. I thought that he was like,
he's
remember,
also
actually,
probably
like,
not watching this.
bad.
I,
Yeah.
I still have not heard back from him. I think he might be upset with me. I don't know. If he is, I am sorry, Merc. And if you're watching this, I'm sorry, Merc. Anyhow.
It just so happens that he went after the person that we both thought was our biggest
Yeah,
ally.
it was just a bad throw of the dart. I mean, I don't think he had any
Yeah.
real specific reason to target DBD. I
Yeah.
think he just kind of did. And wrong place to throw.
I
So, okay,
do think,
so your gut, though, from landing here is that not terribly connected, but were you nervous? Were you excited? Is it like time to meet a bunch of new people? Like, what's your whole...
yeah. Like, so DBD messaged me first, and he said, "What do you think of Chili?" And I was like, honestly, I've only had one interaction with him, but it was hella positive. And then you reached out to me, and so like, I had that first group with you, and then I'm like, all right, like obviously the goal is to get 5.
Mhm.
And I was talking to Steak, and I was talking to Merc, and I remember at that time you messaged me like, "Hey Arden, like we got a group of 5 already," and I'm like, "Ooh, okay." And so now I'm in that group of 5, but I'm still talking to Merc and Steak, and that's where and especially because Merc then blew up shit, like where I was like,
Mhm.
God, I don't want Merc to target me with anything, like, so I just kind of rolled with it. I should have been forthright with Steak.
I know
Yeah.
so I think one of the flaws in my game and one of the perfect things you did there was you didn't do too much and you let everybody else do too much. I realized it right away that I was way too busy, way too early,
Yeah.
making way too many alliances with way too many
Yep.
people, talking to everybody.
Yep.
And I think it was my first confession. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I've seen
That was
enough
me right at the
Survivor.
merge. Yep.
What's that?
That was me right at the merge.
Oh, there you go.
But
Yeah, and
I'm like,
I realized like I'm doing that thing that I yell at people for doing when I watch the show on TV. Like I'm just doing too fucking much, and I have to
yep.
calm my shit down.
Yep.
It just so happens I think that it all kind of worked out because we did find a 5, and once you have a 5, like you're happy because you
Yeah.
are in theory safe. So
There's no way they'll trade us to the other tribe and fucking cut us out of the numbers.
still doesn't make sense. Murmur twin, it still doesn't make sense. Oh my god.
I thought that was proof that that was a fake alliance from that. Like I renounced town so bad in my head. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I could not for the life of me. And I know Jiv Job, he was rushed. That's what it is.
yeah,
All it
yeah,
was that he was
honestly, it's
rushed.
all good, dude.
There was no real thought. It was just, oh, here's a thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But, oh well. Look, it ended up, creating an interesting dynamic. So let's go there. So
Yeah.
we land there. It's a weird situation, but now even weirder for you because yeah, we got swapped. Maybe you could say screwed, and yet the 2 people who you were going into this, and you said like, well, they're my people that I know the best. Here they are.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
All right, so yeah, I get there. Reach out to Sal immediately because
sure.
yeah, like we're homies. Like we've been our history. There's 2 Fate Mafia games. The first one, we were Masons. I was Scum. He was Town. And I completely fucking got him to believe I was
no.
Town, and he threw the game, and Scum won because he just totally blindly believed me. And
I am such a disbeliever in that role dynamic. I hate it.
Oh,
I hate
God,
unconfirmed
yeah.
Masons so much.
Oh my
But,
God.
okay.
And
It allows people to excel, and I'm proud that you did. But boy, I don't like that role.
Oh, it was so awful to do that to Sal. Sal was the most like sincere, like just nice person. I'm just like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna destroy it. And so then Fate Mafia 2, we were Scum team members together.
Okay.
And that was like the shit.
Yeah.
And I love you, Sal, but this is a true story. You'll laugh at this, but at one point he Scum slips, outing me as Scum, and we scramble and we fucking patch it together and we somehow get through it. And then later in the game, he's like, "Oh, Murmur, like being scum with you is great." And he was talking about the first face day, but the way he phrased it, I thought he added me as scum again. And
Oh
so I'm
boy.
like, "Yeah, I'm scum. Fuck it." At that point, we were winning anyways, and so it didn't matter. But like,
Sure.
that was partially where my fear of Sal with secrets in this game came from. Sorry, Sal. Love you.
You can
Anyway,
apologize to the winner. You're not allowed to apologize to the winner. Everyone else you
okay.
can say sorry to, not the winner. Sal, you get no apologies. Lots of love, no
Oh man.
apologies.
All right. So gosh, where was I? I feel like I trailed off. We're at the swap. Yeah.
At the
So
swap.
I talked to Sal, and he was like openly advocating for me, as I found out. And then I talked to Kat, and it was a lot more businesslike with Kat, where I'm just like, listen, I know the score. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you four are gonna vote as a block. And she told me like, yeah, we're gonna vote for someone, but like, I'm pretty sure I can keep it on Connor Chili for this vote. And then after that, who knows? And I'm like, that's a hit. Like, that's good enough.
It's something.
And I reached out to Omni, and yeah, he basically like refused to talk game with me. Like, we talked a little bit of real life, but it trailed off. And then Boogie just said, okay, like, noted. And I'm like, well, this sucks. Like,
Yep.
and then Khan didn't talk to me at all. Like, I knew Khan was not feeling it after I lied
Yeah.
to him. Yeah.
So
And so I was just like,
strategy prison, as it were.
yeah. And so literally the only people on my side were you, kind of, because like I was on your side, but you know, we only have one place we can aim to
No, I
hit.
mean, I'd say in
Yeah.
that given situation, the most amount of heat is on the minority. Like you and I,
Yeah.
we're at the bottom, and it's going to be
Yeah.
one of us probably, or Khan. So
Yeah.
the most animosity should, in theory, be on us.
Yeah. And there were points where I was withholding stuff from you because I'm like, sorry,
Sure.
Chili, like I might have to vote you out, you know, like
Yeah.
it sucks, but it's the game. Like I wanted you to survive, but like, yeah, it was looking hopeless. Like, and honestly, like I've said, that was the first time in one of these games I've ever just been no allies, out of the numbers, like no real hope. And it's like, fuck, that gets in your head. That shit sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I say that because like I kind of realized that's kind of what drove like the way I played later in the game, where it's like I didn't want anybody else to think they're in the minority, like, because that breeds desperation, and also because I know it sucks and I don't want to do that to them. So
It just breeds unpredictability, because when you put
yeah.
people in a situation where they have to do something, they're gonna do something.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
whatever it might, if it's like, and like from my position, I had to do something. That something was, I couldn't see a good road to survival, but I could see a road to interesting. So like, and
Thank you.
that can complicate things. So like, if you put people in that place and you don't talk to them, not only is it like also just demoralizing to them, and now, by the way, you're playing against people who aren't playing at their best, and your win isn't as honorable if you get it. But it
Yeah.
also just, it complicates things. And if you don't, if you close the door there, and that was kind of a theme of like what Sal and I talked about,
Yeah.
closed doors means that people are closing the door on you too, and you don't know what's going on. So why? So yeah. I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was interesting because like I had a real, so this is after you get voted out, and I'm still on the outs. Like I'm kind of hoping that maybe Omni and Boogie will reach out to me, but they don't. And so I reached out to Omni, like, where I'm just like, yo, like, kind of this sucks a lot. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, it's fine, you don't want to talk to me. And he's like, listen, like, I don't want to get close to you because I might have to vote you out, like, straight up. And I'm not getting close to Khan either. And it's like, honestly, I've been there more than I've been here. And so I do get that. Like, and I'm like, I'm not.
We're like, skin that cat another way. You're Amnestar there, and Amnestar is you. And how do you handle him? What is it that you say to Amnestar in that situation where in theory you have all the power? Like, how would you handle that as Murmur Twin?
I'd say, listen, like, I'll see what I can try and do. Like, I can't promise you anything, and just kind of see what they have to offer, I'd say, if I'm in the position of power.
See, I think the genius of Sal's game, or at least one of them, don't use the word genius. The position I got from him was basically like, you're going to go soon, so I only have so much more time to talk to you, so let's get to know each other before I don't get to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
That was how Sal played it, and I think that's how everyone should play it. This is what it felt like to me. Like, okay, let's talk and get to know you. and it'll suck when I have to vote you out, but like that's the stronger thing to do.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny. I on one hand, like when I was going to vote out DBD, and I was fucking stressing about it, just human level didn't want to do it. And then like 30 minutes before, like my computer's blowing up, I'm not looking at it, and I see a bunch of messages from DBD and Sal. And DBD's like, Sal told me you're going to use the nullifier. Like, little does he know. And I couldn't even read it because I was just fucking mortified. I'm like, Sal, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's why I asked him about it at the finals, because I'm just like, you're taking this. But like, I'm like, you're ruining my chances in the jury with DBD. And then I'm like, that's kind of smart, actually. Fuck. Like, honestly, it was smart for him to do that. It sucked for me, but I'm like, that's fucking funny. Like, sure.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, it is what it is. Like,
I think it's like why when your natural reaction to someone is anger for, not you, but when anyone's natural reaction in the game is anger for having your spot blown up, we all have to remember like, oh, the more spots you can blow up strategically, the better for you, because that's how it works. Like, you don't want people to keep their spots. If you're the one who gets there with all of the spots, then you win. So
yeah, definitely. I remember that was kind of going to be, if I made it to the finals, and I knew I had a fucking uphill battle, like a giant task ahead of me, but like the main point that I would come to is if Sal was there in the jury as well, that everyone on the jury except for DBD was going to vote me out at some point. They just missed. And sorry, like
which
I got
I think
like,
you and even if you went with Kat, that is kind of a unique claim, right? Like that's
yeah,
pretty much how you would separate yourself from Kat.
that
like
was
you
my
were always a target.
Yeah, that was my angle, was like the underdog. Like, I made the moves I had to make because everyone was gunning for me all the time. Like I give credit to Kat for never being the target, but I didn't have that luxury, and so like mine was more of a did what you had to do. And then because I confessional so much, I think like this isn't strategy, but it helps. It's like I could tell you the reason, what was going on in my head for any of them, and it's never personal. Like there's always a reason for it, and so like hopefully I could just like get people on that page.
Sure. No, I don't know how that one plays out. If during that final tribal people are like, oh, like I am more mad at this person, but really it was a joint effort, and that's a braver thing to be the face of the pain than to be behind it. It may
I was
be
not confident. Like, don't get me wrong.
I don't know.
Confident.
It's an interesting thing to see which way that shakes out. I don't know how. I really don't. And it's a curious thing. And not to slight Kat's game. It was. I think there is also a really good incentive to not be the face of all of that. So
definitely. Like, seems a lot less stressful to never have the target on you.
I would ask you to dive more into why it ended up being Khan and not you, but I think that felt kind of obvious, and that Khan kind of soured most of everybody on the side because of how he played it. So they kept you, and then you pretty much survived until merge.
Yeah, so I think what got me, like, going back to the on the star conversation, is I was being genuine, where like what Khan had planted in their head was that, I am a liar, and that I'll jump back to town as soon as I get out. And I'm like, fuck it, I am not going to jump back to town. Like, let me tell you. And I'm not even lying. I'm like, Jim's dead to me. Like, Joey warned me, DBD dead to me. Like, Zesty P. Marchandle, don't know him, dead to me. Like, Steak, whatever. Like, he doesn't trust me, I don't think. So, like, yeah, no, I'll be scum strong all the way to the end. I meant it. And so, to the point where I actually said something like, let's beat these town chumps, and then DBD mutinied into the channel, and I'm like, fuck, so I was literally internalizing scum strong, that foursome plus me, like, strong, and I meant it. And so the mutiny comes around, and that was trippy because there was 30 minutes before tribal, and I'm on a new tribe, and everyone's messaging me, like,
feel free to swear, it's okay.
Yeah. Oh, all right, good. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, not CBS, cool. Everyone's messaging me, and like, kind of think they might be trying to blindside me, but kind of not. And like, literally on the fence about it, like, trying to think. And then it's revealed that it's a full tribal, and then P-Mush says like, oh, we'll just get Murmur to it. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, all right, it's on. Like, but that's where I was like 100% like scum strong. Like, I have no question as to what my allegiance is. And it also helped that it was a very easy cover story to just say the four of them shut me the fuck out, like, because I think they then did that to DBD. And so I think when we merged, nobody thought I was with Omni's group at all, like, until we got the Zesty vote off. and then that gave us numbers for a while.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's pretty much how that went. Like having your idol, ooh, that made me confident. Like
Good.
knowing that there's that backup plan is very, very
Yeah,
helpful.
it was interesting. I think you even apologized in chat when you or in your confessional when you did it. I was a little salty with you when you told people about it because like don't tell people. But hey, it got you. It worked. Like it got you far enough. It helped. It helped you build relationships. And that is certainly a way to do it. I always shout at my TV whenever anyone mentions an idol, and I was furious at myself for having done it because I don't know in an alternate universe if the three of us could have done a minority blindside and gotten rid of one of those scum people. It could have happened, but
me and Con
I let
were
it
just
slip. I let
when
it
you
slip.
opened the channel with me and Con, I was just like, oh, Chili, does he not realize?
Well, at that point, by the way, I don't even know if you realized it. I had told, so I trusted him at that point more than I trusted you. And I told him a day before it about the idol, so it was done. Like I stuck such a fork in myself. So the whole thing was just silly.
The ramifications of that were so funny because I was like, if fucking Chili trusts Con more than me, DVD must have fucking sold me down the river. So DVD must have sold. Everyone on town is compromised. None of them are gonna trust me, like dead to me. Like
so generally, it had a little bit to do with that. It had more to do with I think in that situation, I'd rather look down than up, and I felt like Khan was lower down on the totem pole, therefore more desperate and hopefully more likely to accept the plan. At least it felt like it was Murmur, Twin Chili, Khan. That's kind of the structure of the three of us. At least that's how it felt. So it could be right or wrong, but that's what.
Well, knowing that I know people, like I can see where you put me up there.
Really, Chili and Khan probably are about the same, to be honest. So, but so I'd rather work with that than with you, who probably had more leverage, and it all makes sense. But anyhow, okay. So I think probably one of the most interesting parts of the game overall was this sort of behind the scenes, very secretive alliance that truly did have an overwhelming amount of influence on the game. So hopefully I'm going to be talking to Kat and get her perspective on that too soon.
Heck yeah.
But I certainly want to get yours.
Sure.
Namely, like, I guess the first question is, when were you confident that it was a real fucking thing? That this is it, like, oh, I believe this now and we're good. When was that switch?
All right. So like going on the timeline, I'd say like, what's funny about this game in general, like literally I was at my least amount of power after the trade, and after every tribal council, I think I felt like I had more influence, more options, until it got overwhelming. Like, so, it was very much an alliance of convenience, but so going into the constant vote, she said to me, I have an advantage and I'm willing to give it to you. You can use it to save yourself, and it's worse than an idol. So she offered to give that to me. If I gave her the idol to hold during tribal council, she would give it back to me. Mm-hmm. And she said, no pressure to accept this, but I want to put that offer on the table. And I said, I want to think about it. And so I'm thinking about it. This is right after Winners at War. Did you watch Winners at War?
Absolutely.
Sandra? Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking about that. I'm like, okay, but why would she trade like one advantage for a slightly better advantage and vote out? Like, what does she gain from that? Like,
right. If anything, she's now incentivized to vote you out, so she doesn't have to make good on it.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm like, I do think that she will just hold up her end of the bargain. And so, like, but then in the meantime, I had that conversation with Emily, and he and Sal both said, hey, we want to keep you over Khan. And so I said to Kat, like, yo, I don't think I need to take this offer, like, but I appreciate that you told me. And she told me that I was the only person she told about the advantage to at all. And so I'm like, that's good to know. I'm like not telling anyone that. And so I didn't. So then, what do you call it? She messaged me stressed out about she's like, this is back when you were getting voted out. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And so I'm like, I'm trying to build goodwill here. I have to tell her about I was like, I'm just going to tell her, like, listen, I have Chili's idol. He's taking the bullet. Like, it will build trust. Now I remember. I'm sorry. That wasn't even really strategic. That was me melting down because it was just such a fucking stressful day. And I'm like, I've never not had, like, that number one ally. And, like, it was just, like, Kat played therapy for me. And, like, that's what I needed there. And so, like.
And look, that's a credit to Kat's game, too.
Yeah. There you go. Like, I know she doesn't confessional much, but like, yeah, very much like we're friends, and like she knows how I operate. Like I need someone to just word vomit at,
Mhm.
take the gems out, like process it into something good, and then like direct me. Like, because without it, that's why I played your idol at that merge vote, is because I thought of the one scenario where I might go, and I'm like, that's what's happening. Like, it's
Sure.
like shit. I needed someone to talk to. Like that was what was missing, and so that was actually going into. Also, I told her that Sal had told me about Boogie's idol, because I was afraid that if Sal mentioned that I knew that and I had kept it from Kat, that she might
Right.
be worried that I was keeping secrets. And so I was just trying to, any information I could give, I was giving.
Mhm.
And also it undermined Sal's ability to keep a secret. Sorry. Um, and so we're trading secrets like that. Going into the merge, she tells me, like, she gives me her breakdown of the perceived teams at the merge, which I had been calling Town and Scum. And she said, no, it's more like Team Zesty and Team Amni, and I'm on both of them. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh, all right. Like, so I realized that she was going to be, like, she was the swing vote this vote. And she ended up siding with Team Amni, the Swan group.
Right.
And we voted out Zesty. And like from what I heard, P-Mush was pissed and like giving her a lot of crap about it in another channel that I didn't see. And so now we're going into the next vote, and this is where I'm in the room with DVD and Spokes, and I'm like, yeah, we're finals. And then I'm in a room with Steak and Sal, and they're like, we're gonna be final 3. And then like, oh, that was where I just started to realize I'm like, fuck, like I'm in too deep. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do, and that's where I again. When I am stressed and spinning out, like I'm not in, like it's very different. My like, I'm emotionally turbulent, as you will. And so like I just went to Kat and just told her everything. I'm like, listen, like, but before I told her everything, I said there needs to be an alliance. Like, I'm not just telling you this so I can come in fourth to you're already final 3. So like I guess one thing I would say is that I believe that it's fine to get in with somebody who has an ally already and just bump and take out their spot. Like, I'm not gonna let that stop me. And so, like, I knew she was tight with Amni and I knew she was tight with Sal, but I'm like, we can make it work or whatever. But like,
Sure.
once I was able to tell her that I was in those 2 rooms, those 2 groups of 3, and that Steak and DBD had idols. With sorry guys, shouldn't tell people.
Yep.
Once I was able to tell her, so she knew where all the idols were. Kind of between the 2 of us, we had connections to everyone in the game.
Right.
And I
And
think we
at that
both,
point, she absolutely could have blown up your spot and sent you
yeah,
back in. And
yeah,
that
she
like
could have,
that's probably a big part of why you felt as
yeah,
secure as you did, because you
yeah,
essentially put
and,
your
and
fate in
like,
her hands.
yeah, and I told her, and this is the honest truth. I said, like, I am going to have to break a lot of hearts to make it to the end. I can tell that you are too. Like, we both have like 7 allies out of 10 people. Like, it's not gonna
Yeah,
work.
do the math.
Yeah, and so like, I actually think my best chance of having an argument is against somebody that's done as much, terrible stuff as I have, and someone else maybe, but figure that out later. But what was I going to say? And also, I was very aware, almost aware enough that my biggest hurdle was going to be the fact that I am undefeated in final tribal councils. Like that is so hard to like get
Hmm.
people to forget. And so I figured with Kat at least like I could say like, hey, people are gonna look at you as a threat, people are gonna look at me as a threat. Like at least like I think you're the least likely to be scared of me as a finals opponent. Whoops,
Sure.
mistake, But like
Yeah.
yeah, like at that point, like I think if I had voted out Kat, I think Steak and Sal would have taken me to the final 3. I don't think P-Mush would have. So that might have been strategically my best chance, but like, yeah, that final 2 agreement is sacred to me. I
Yeah,
don't
well,
break.
it's also, yeah, they take you, but there's other players in the game who might not
Yeah,
have that interest, and
yeah, yeah,
you just don't
yeah,
know. So,
yeah. I really did believe that Kat saw it as in her interest because like I should have been more. I don't like talking myself up in general. I don't like it feels forced, but like I was saying, like man, deadbeat dad never gonna vote for me. Like Spoke's probably never gonna vote for me. Like, and then Amni probably not gonna vote for me. Boogie like also went as a result of that. And then like P-Mush and what do you call it, Steak. Like, I was kind of counting on Steak as the jury vote until I voted out P-Mush, and then I'm like, oh my fucking god, like. So I thought it would be obvious that I was like, dead meat going in, but like, maybe I don't know. Maybe the world may never know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think, like, look, the obvious goal of Survivor is to survive.
Yeah,
There's certainly nothing to sneeze at by making it to 4, and you made it to
yeah,
4.
yeah, yeah.
So, like,
Like,
it's
yeah.
not
It
bad.
was. Don't get me wrong. Like, working with Kat was a fucking blast. Like just
Hmm.
always knowing all the information, and like it's such a huge advantage because we always had it like once. So I knew that we were truly tight. Um, DBD went. I think it must have been either after Spokes, or it was after Amni went. I'm pretty sure, because I like that was the big test where I didn't know at what point Kat was more loyal to Amni than me, but she kind of like gave me the like, hey, I would be okay with a fault on Amni happening. I cannot vote in it. And I'm like, understand. And then when she told me how to do the vote split, just make sure you're on the side with the 3, and then you can just vote out Amni. And so like stuff like that, like just having a partner, like at that point I knew it was if she's willing to cut out who I thought was her true final 2 to help me, like that's where it's like, okay, like at some point you just have to put your faith in it that like we're seeing things on the same page.
Hmm.
And I'm feel free to ask her this. I think if Steak didn't win immunity, she would have voted out Steak and gone with me and Sal.
It certainly seemed like it was going that way.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, ask her that because
Sure.
um, so yeah, it seemed like I came like I really have no regrets. I honestly don't.
Sure.
Like I had a really good time. Like, and I really so part of my other pitch, if I had made it to the hypothetical final, is that people kind of went, with the exception of DBD, in reverse order of how threatening they were to me at any point in the game.
Hmm.
Like, it was all people that I thought were eventually going to get rid of me. Amni, I thought would get rid of me at 4, but I did not think he ever wanted me at 3 or better. Maybe he might
Sure.
have, but like, and then P-Mush I was going after, but then once Steak aligned with her and me, it was like, okay, like I don't think she's gonna target me now.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
P-Mush is so unpredictable. It's
yeah,
funny.
I,
Yeah,
and I like the unpredictable players too. I mean, certainly,
yeah.
Steak carved out his niche in that as well.
Oh,
Um,
at one point I was like, I said to Kat, I'm like the final 3. I'm like Steak, Sal, and P-Mush. This is like like that is a pretty like unpredictable like
mhm.
group to try and
So,
predict.
so a question I have, because you're going to be, I don't know how many other people I'm going to talk to, but one thing that you have, or you don't have in common with at least Sal and Kat, is that you spent a little bit of time, not a lot, in Ponderosa. And I'm certainly curious about just like what the experience was entering it. Like I have to imagine,
Mhm.
it was an intense experience knowing you finally had access to that chat room. And
Yeah,
like, what was your
yeah.
whole approach to just handling that dynamic?
So it was so again like that Steak narrative I mentioned, where like how going to Scum was karma for my lying to him in the first place. Like going to Ponderosa was my karma for fucking twice lying to him right before tribal, and then going against him. And so I get there, it's like in Awful Big Brother 2, I was like fucking sobbing. Like I get there and I'm just like, yo, I fucking deserved it. Like this is awesome. Like this game is about karma. Like, and I really did like, if I were to complain about getting blindsided, like getting shunted off to this Ponderosa is a pretty good way to put it in perspective and just be like, just a game, like
Yeah,
fully
I
fluid. Like,
don't. So I don't know if Ponderosa is predisposed to have it so that the last person there is the least bitter, but that definitely is what it felt like. I think you, not to
yeah.
say that you deserved it, but when you watch in Ponderosa when someone got voted off, I
Mm,
think everyone came in saying, "Well, shit," and then it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just like
yeah.
sort of cycloned around. And look, I get it; it sucks. No
Mm,
one wants to end up there,
yep.
but I was probably I most enjoyed your entrance in, which was pretty damn graceful. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but of course you're the last one there, so
Mm,
you who could you be mad at
yep.
that point?
Right.
But I think that's also partially why you ended up there, because you do understand, or it's why you ended up there last, because you do have a better kind of sense than
Yep.
many of like That's kind of how the game works. Not going to take
Yeah.
it personally.
Yep.
Even though you can be confused, surprised by things, it's probably not wearing down on your soul to the extent that it might
Yeah.
some others, and that's a
Yeah.
testament to your own game.
Exactly. And it helps that like other than the country going to shit, like my life is in a really good place right now. Like, and that I like my work, I like where I live, have a happy
Mhm.
relationship, got a lot of friends, and so it's good. Like
Awesome.
it's a game. Like it was
Hmm.
a fun time, and I'm really happy with the final three. Like I think it was a great group.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I could, even though like I said, I think my vote would have been for Sal. There's absolutely versions of me and reasons why I would vote for like it was not an easy call. And I definitely got the sense from just the Ponderosa chat room that it was not an easy call, like at
Yeah.
all.
It's
And
funny.
talk about a live tribal. I think it was a live tribal. Like, and
Yeah.
final tribal councils are not frequently live tribals, but felt like it.
Yeah. That was definitely. It's funny. Like I saw one comment in the viewers Zisto when I was in the jury was like, "Oh man, Murmur is accidentally tanking Cat's game." I'm like, I was intentionally tanking Cat's game. I was like I'm loyal until you vote me out, and then like. Yeah, sorry, especially day of. Like, I was keeping it graceful, but I was like, yeah, Amity, like, she knew about that. Like, she didn't get blindsided by you leaving, and like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
absolutely saying that. Like, again, love you, Cat. Like.
For sure. Yeah, it's all a game.
But yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so overall, though, no big regrets about playing, even though you kind of incidentally found yourself in this one. But you enjoyed the
yeah.
run, the
Oh, definitely did.
highs and lows.
Yeah. Like, it's interesting. Like, I've come to realize this game that like I would say that I am a very hard player to balance in a cast. In that I've played so many, especially like there were first time players that were like, oh, it's an and like honestly, I can't argue that really like. And so if there was ever like like an all like multiplayer vets like, and then there's the problem that I still know a lot of people, but like
Hmm.
and so like I'm fine watching like newer seasons and new players. I think everyone should experience these because they're fucking awesome.
They are fun, yeah.
And like confessional, like people confessional all the time. Video confessional, like should we change the game? Like I think this is awesome. Um yeah, because it's a really fun like just kind of alternate reality to live in for a month.
I
So
agree. I agree. So yeah, so no big regrets, and certainly glad to hear you're doing well.
yeah.
Anything else you want the viewers to take away, or any of your other jury members or players to take away from like your game, philosophy of the game, anything else at all?
All right.
We covered a lot of ground, so it's okay if not.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like an overall philosophy to the game. Like surrender to the flow is one that I use a lot, which is just
Hmm.
where it's just like I never really try to plan too far ahead because I recognize that people are such variables, like especially in such an emotional game, and that's not even counting like individual immunity and idols and stuff. But like you never know what things are going to be like in a day or two, and so it's better just to kind of I'd say the two big things to look at in a game like this are information and trust. And you gain information by building trust, and you build trust by sharing correct information
Hmm.
and keeping secrets and stuff.
It's a
And
nice
so I
loop.
try, yeah, and so like, and also it's a anti-loop too. Like if you don't trust someone, you won't get in, or somebody lies to you, like you won't trust them.
Right.
And so I was always kind of aware of that relationship. And you try and vote out the people that you have little trust with while building up the, connection is what I would call that, like the trust information loop. And so yeah, that's my strategy is just try and connect to people. And yeah, just be aware of it. I'd say is if you're playing this, it really helps to talk to people and just try and build bonds. Like that's why Sal won. I'd say like,
For sure. So
but
we've got
also
go with the flow, build trust, build information, don't talk shit. These are generally pretty good life pieces of advice too, I
yeah.
think. So
I,
I think we should
like
all
I'd
listen to
say
Murmur
like
Twin more.
yeah, like I'd say that I've learned a lot of like the trust communication loop. Like I've used that in real life all the time. That was
Oh, for
from Pet
sure.
Island where I first discovered that, or like I confessional it, and
Hmm.
then I thought about it in real life, and I'm like, that feels like a real concept to me. Like,
It
and so
belongs on a t-shirt, really. I
yeah,
think
or
I could see
something
it.
like a
Yeah.
fortune cookie or something.
Yeah,
Like,
if anyone has made it this far into the interview, it would be lovely if you developed a really cool t-shirt for this.
and put that on tie
I would
dye.
actually buy it. I would buy it.
Nice. Oh man, yeah, and so I'd say that's pretty much it. Is just have fun with them. Like, I really, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. Have
Sounds
fun.
good.
Like,
Have fun.
yeah,
Yeah, enjoy the game. Remember, like, and I mentioned in my confessional with Sal that I don't think the stakes generally matter. People played
yeah,
this game
no,
just like they would have for a million,
yeah.
and that's really
I
cool. But
definitely
it's
think,
also
yeah,
like, have fun. Like, it is
mhm,
still a game, and the
yeah,
stress can be a part of it, and learning how to weather that's also kind of cool. Character
yeah,
building, all that good shit.
yeah, definitely,
For
definitely,
sure. All right. Well,
yeah,
it was a total blast talking to you. And I think the one
absolutely.
condition you had for me after like the idle exchange was that we kept on talking afterward and stayed
Oh
friends. And
yeah,
I hope we stay friends because you're too cool not
absolutely.
to know.
That was
So
fucking
we'll keep on
awesome.
talking. All right.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. This
All
is
right.
great.
Well,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you so much for having the guts to
Yep.
come on for the second
Oh
ever
yeah, no, this is
interview.
fun. This was a blast.
Yeah. So for all future viewers or anyone else wants to come on, just let me know. But until then, this has been Chili Has a Zoom Room for Murmur, Twin, and myself signing off and saying, see you next time. Bye,
Later
guys.
all.